As many of you will know, we've done a series on Star Entertainment chronicling the story of how a series of terrible decisions led a casino monopoly to the point of insolvency. One of the biggest contributors to this was the Queen's Wharf development complex, which cost $3.6 billion, more than $1 billion more than its initial projections. Now, we've done a separate video recording part 4 of this series, this time examining the takeover bid by Bally's Corporation and Chow Tai Fook Enterprises, examining the consequences of this bid and whether it's good or bad for Bally's Corporation. So stay tuned for that. But in doing so, we also toured the Queen's Wharf development ourselves finally and decided to do a review of their poker room. So let's judge that on its own merits at Star Casino Brisbane. And thus, Category 1, Location and Access. Well, Brisbane is, without question, one of the most picturesque cities anywhere in the world, boasting perfect weather, walkable urban areas, and a stunning skyline on both banks of the river cutting through its heart. Brisbane has a major international airport with direct flights to the Middle East, the United States, and all around Asia. It takes about 25 minutes on the train to get to the city centre once you arrive at the terminal, and about $15 each way. From there, the Queen's Wharf Casino complex remains a huge feature with its own bridge connecting across the river. It takes about 15 minutes from the train terminal to walk there. Being in the middle of the CBD, there are countless accommodation options, including the fairly economical Great Southern Hotel that is literally just across the road staring into it, not even 30 seconds away. The Queen's Wharf has its own hotel, of course, the Grand Star, but even with low occupancy and huge discounts, it remains quite expensive to stay there, so unless you're in the mood for splurging, you might want to find accommodation elsewhere. One of the best aspects of the location, however, is the poker room itself. As soon as you enter the front door of the casino and look right, there is a massive dedicated poker room that's impossible to miss. It truly is a flagship style product offering, and when you get in, you can just head straight to the desk, register for a tournament or cash game without difficulty. So with its central location in a gorgeous city with perfect weather and a poker room that's prominent from both dedicated enthusiasts and casual gamblers walking past, it is absolutely flawless. The only drawback is the distance from the airport to the city centre, which requires another walk to the venue thereafter, but that is a pretty mild critique. So, for location and access, 4.5 stars. Category 2, Game Options. Queen's Wharf offers a proper, first-class, large and well-maintained new poker experience known simply as the Star Poker Room Brisbane. It opens formally 10 a.m. 7 days a week, and the first game is up usually by around 10:30 a.m., often a 2-5 Hold'em game with a $300 to $1,000 buy-in. The smaller 2-3 up gets up about an hour or so later and can cannibalize some of the 2-5 until the room itself fills up. The 2-3 has a $200 to $500 max buy-in. As new tables open, there's a $5-10, $500 to $2,000 game, and even a $10-20 that's a $1,000 to $5,000 game. And there's a $25-50 on the books, which would be a $2,500 to $10,000 game, though that didn't get up while I was there. Now, both Texas Hold'em and Omaha are on offer, and unusually the buy-in amounts and blind levels are identical for both of those formats. While at least one Omaha game does seem to always get up, Texas Hold'em remains vastly more popular across different stake levels. But that's not all. Queen's Wharf also hosts regular tournaments every Friday and Saturday. Friday starts in the evening as a $200 freeze-out, and Saturday has a $300 unlimited buy-in starting in the afternoon. Also, one Saturday a month has a $660 monster stack in lieu of the $300 rebuy. Now, of course, as a new venue with an uncertain future, at present Star Brisbane does not host any major live series events. However, with dozens of tables, excellent facilities and plenty of space, it absolutely has the capability of becoming a major series circuit stop in the future. And I would expect this to happen in the near term. So, with a poker room that's open most hours with abundant options and stakes and weekend tournaments, it really is quite fantastic. The only drawback is that it takes a while to fill up the room and it lacks the draw power events of a true poker mecca like an Aria or a Rosvedov, but it's a really solid start so far. So for game options, 4 stars. 3. Service and experience. Okay, so I understand completely why foreign potential buyers were hypnotized by what they saw. The Star Brisbane and the Queen's Wharf development as a whole is gorgeous. Everything about it, the design, layout, aesthetic, is absolutely phenomenal. Now here I want to digress for a moment and talk about how casinos are typically designed. You see, if you go to most venues around the world, there are no windows or clocks because casinos want you to lose track of time. The carpets are deliberately ugly so that people will spend more time looking at the machines and gaming options. And all of this comes from a book called Designing Casinos to Dominate the Competition by Bill Friedman, published in 2000, with 13 principles of layout and design aimed to encourage more people to gamble. Now, this book has become somewhat of a Bible for those casino operators looking to build new venues. It's just there's one problem. It's all complete bunk. It's filled with completely untested assumptions not supported by any empirical data that result in selection and survivorship bias that simply doesn't account for the many multitudes of people that don't frequent a casino at all because of these very same traits. Now, I have mentioned this digression because the Star Brisbane rightly throws that book out the window, and to its very great advantage. For instance, the casino boasts many windows and an abundance of natural light, including in the poker room. As you walk around the casino floor, the carpet is lovely, it suits the colour scheme, and you're treated to a panoramic view of Brisbane City. The bars are elegant, the design open with great visibility of the gaming floor, and the consequence? It's nice to actually be there. The casino is inviting, attractive, and likely to encourage the well-to-do middle-class patrons who would otherwise not be caught dead in a casino. So Star gets huge bonus points for me just for that, for making the casino look gorgeous and ignoring what is a very bad and totally unsubstantiated conventional wisdom in casino layout design. As for the poker room, the tables are fantastic and have USB charging ports. The chips are all great, the seats are especially nice and on wheels. There aren't any chip runners, but it does have a dedicated desk in the room for buy-ins and exchanging chips, so you're not doing it with the dealer and holding up play. The dealers themselves are fast, professional and efficient, although all Queensland casinos are dealing out of a shoe every hand, which can slow things down a bit. There is a drinks cart that comes around but seemingly intermittently, and there is free parking. You can get your parking ticket validated for if you play at the casino poker. Overall, it is a relaxing, comfortable, aesthetic, inviting and attractive environment. There could be more accessible food options, drinking water, etc., especially since you can't really take long breaks. And there could be a little bit more entertainment around the room. That wouldn't go astray, although I would never trade that in for the natural light you get with all those windows. Overall, this room is still very much finding its feet in terms of a brand new venue feel, but I have very much liked what I've seen so far. So for service and experience, 3.5 stars. 4. Rake and Rewards. Rake is bad for all of Australia, but weirdly at Star Brisbane it's devastatingly bad at low stakes and dare I say good at 10-20 and above. This is because Rake is 10% capped at $20 at every stake level. This is true for 2-3 with its max $500 buy-in, just as it is at the $25.50 with its $10,000 buy-in. In fact, at the $25.50, the max rate cap is $350 an hour total, which makes sense given that pretty much every hand is going to hit the cap. This is radical and really quite interesting, a kind of poker flat tax you don't often see. So if you are at the higher stakes, definitely come and play here because at the 10-20 game, for example, it's a single big blind. is a max cap, and that's quite appealing. But at the other end, it's even worse than the headline figure suggests, because not only is the 2, 3, and 2, 5 capped at $20, it's also in increments of $1, whereas at 5, 10 and above, it's increments of 5. Now, of course, it's normal practice for rake to be a little more attractive at the higher stakes than at the lower stakes, but 10% at almost 7 big blinds at 2, 3 with a max 160 big blind buy-in is pretty wild, particularly when at the other end, it's a 1 big blind cap with a 250 big blind max buy-in. That is a crazy differential. Now, it's possible that Star's management is specifically targeting the higher stakes players, trying to bring in more high rollers, but I think it's far more likely, actually, that they just didn't really think about it and decided to look at how much it costs to run poker and price it accordingly. And also, there are no jackpots or rewards of any kind, no bad beats, royal flushes or high hand or cash races. And honestly, that is a real shame, because the prominency and accessibility of this poker room right at the entrance means that if you broadcast jackpots, you'll attract a lot more patrons who are casually walking by. I would strongly recommend to the management there to consider introducing a bad beat jackpot, keep the rake the same at the lower stakes, and charge the amounts to the higher stakes, because you can afford to take $1 or $2 from each hand when the cap is only 1 big blind at 10-20. On the other hand, the tournament rake is perfectly fine. It's much more standard for these kinds of live poker events at these buy-in levels, and fairly decent, in fact, in the $660 monster stack. Overall, I've never seen such a mixed bag rake structure at a single venue. It is still better than its primary rival in Australia, Crown Casino, but it's still pretty bad. So for Rake and Rewards, 2 stars. Rules and quirks. Honestly, I didn't see anything that wasn't completely standard. There's an optional straddle under the gun, and beyond that, it's just normal poker. I guess the only unusual thing is that there is a fold line that is really far away from the players and quite close to the dealer. Great for the dealer because they can just reach for bets and mark cards, but sometimes players seem to be struggling to announce their bets or to avoid string betting by accident. Beyond that, I didn't find anything that was not standard or unexpected. However, I'd want to put in a lot more hours there to get a sense of any crazy or unusual rules, because unusually, I wasn't witness to any unusual disputes. So, if you are watching this and you do play at the Star Brisbane regularly, please leave a comment with anything I've missed on this down below. I'm sure everybody would appreciate it. The only other story is that at my table, I had the honor and privilege of playing with Mr. Jeff Fenech. If you don't know, he is a former boxing world champion who won world titles across 3 different boxing weights before going on to coach Mike Tyson. He took a piece out of me like he did so many others when I had to fold my trips on the river when he flopped a full house. So Mr. Fenech, if you're watching, it has been a great honor meeting and playing with you. Star Brisbane is an absolutely incredible venue that looks like, well, it costs several $1 billion. It is a genuinely pleasant surprise, and the poker is given pride of place and isn't just some cheap afterthought. The game options are excellent, the setting superb, and location amazing. I could absolutely see myself spending a lot more time there, though, like with much of Australia, the rake is still pure pain. Now, having talked about this with my poker fanboy hat on, let's talk about the area itself. You see, as we walked around the vast gaming floor, the towering side buildings, the display rooms, restaurants, bars, entertainment areas, one word stuck in our head: underutilization. See this image from outside the casino? It looks impressive, but looking in from my hotel room across the street, this is what those accompanying side towers really look like on the inside today. Totally unoccupied, unfinished husks. The shopping district is almost completely empty, and the number of families visiting and occupying all those rooftop areas were modest at best. If you compare this with the abundance of teeming life that is across the river with all the shops and bars and ice creameries, well, you can start to really worry if you're running Queen's Wharf when there is very little going on by comparison. Far from being the cultural centerpiece of Queensland's capital, It's more like that quiet place you retreat to when you want to get away from the noise. And this isn't to say that things can't change and the numbers won't boost in future. There's every possibility the market could grow or things could happen to change its appeal, but at the moment, it's incredibly Spartan. Nevertheless, the poker room and the casino more broadly really is a magnificent sight and absolutely worthy of your time. But that's just my opinion. So, have you been to the Star Brisbane? If so, what did you think? Is there any recommendations you'd make or information you would include? Everyone would appreciate that down below. If you would like to check out more reviews or our series on Star Entertainment, you can do so right now. Otherwise, thank you for watching and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.